Hi, welcome to a chef called Rhonda. I'm Rhonda and this is my kitchen. And today I'm going to show you how to make Steak Pizzaiola or Bistecca alla Pizzaiola. It's a Neapolitan classic of thinly sliced steak, also known as bistecca. Today I'm going to show you all the easy and simple steps on how to make this Neapolitan classic recipe. Grab your trusty wooden spoon. Let's all meet back in the kitchen while I show you how to make Bistecca alla Pizzaiola, a wonderful weeknight meal. While I glove up, I'd like to run down our ingredients today for our steak pizzaiola. Super easy ingredients. The key to making this recipe perfectly is attaining a steak that is thinly cut. So my grandfather, who I would consult with each time prior to making pizzaiola, would tell me, go to the butcher and ask for top round, which is a very thinly sliced piece of beef. So today I have just that. I found very, very nice top round, and can you see that? Just how thin my top round has been cut. The secret to a nice tender pizzaiola is the meat needs to be supple. Now, how do we tenderize our top round steak? So what I did was I took 2 pieces of parchment paper and I laid out my top round nice and even. In an effort to save time, I sprinkled the top round with a tad of salt. I have about 1.5 pounds of thinly sliced top round all beef steak. I have about 2 cloves of thinly sliced garlic. Can you see that? I chopped 1 small white or yellow onion. I also have about 3.5 cups of Roma tomatoes, steeping in about a tablespoon of oregano. I'll be using 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Can you see that? A teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Now that's an option. The tools required for steak pizzaiola, and if you've been following me, you know that I have brought in my grandmother's rock as well as a wrapped brick. You're going to ask, well, why, if your steak is already thinly cut from the butcher, it is still necessary to smooth out the top round. The last thing you want to do is try to brown a piece of meat when it's wet. So the parchment paper helps to take away any of the moisture. So my meat, in an effort to save time, has been sitting here at room temperature 15 minutes or so. Parchment paper will stay on top while I take my rock and begin to further smooth out, or not, I'm not really pounding it because it's already thin, but what I'm doing is I'm smoothing out so that I'm breaking up any of the fat, making it that much more tender. I'm just pushing the rock across that parchment paper and letting the rock do the work, breaking up any of that marble fat, thus making a tender meat. I will fold over the 2 pieces of parchment paper and I will place my brick, my wrapped brick, this is an ordinary brick, right atop my top round while I prepare the other ingredients. Okay, so we're working today with a 4-quart skillet. I have it over medium heat. I'm going to add our 1/4 cup of good quality olive oil to our skillet. To do that by hand. 4 tablespoons if you're not inclined to go by hand. This time I want to say hi to all my subscribers. We're growing as a channel. I want to thank you so much. I truly enjoy hearing from each and every one of you. And it's such a pleasure to extend all my grandparents' recipes. And this steak pizzaiola, and we say pizzaiola, it's dialect, it's a Neapolitan dialect, and this recipe hails from, of course, the Neapolitan region, also in the Campania region, the island of Ischia. It's a wonderful, wonderful, tasty, delicate that you can do in a matter of minutes. Serve it on the back of the stove until dinner. My grandparents always taught us to serve it with a nice hearty portion of fresh mashed potatoes, and that oil now is sufficiently heated. It's on a medium-low setting. And first we add our onions, one small onion, and I'm going to let that just sear, you can hear it, until it turns opaque. At this time I'm just going to add a pinch, just a pinch of salt. I'm going to let the onion render and become translucent or opaque before I add our garlic. And it's a key here. Once our onion and garlic and our spices have come to translucent, we're going to remove them from the pan and place them in a bowl and reserve them for later. So now it's time to add our garlic, and we do not want it to burn. That's key, so we want to keep an eye on it. We really don't want to stray too far. Add a pinch of red pepper flakes. Can you see that? Just a pinch, and that's just adding 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, and I'm going to incorporate that nicely. And now I'm just going to allow this to cook for another minute, a minute and a half, so that we bring all our flavors together. Now, while this is rendering out, I do want to make mention that this recipe generally calls for about a half cup to a cup of a dry red wine. And if you don't have wine in the household, you can use about 2 tablespoons of good quality Worcestershire sauce. It's completely optional and up to you. My family likes that little bit of Worcestershire sauce in lieu of the wine. So today I will be using about 2.5 teaspoons of good quality Worcestershire sauce. Can you see that? I'm going to bring it up close so that you can see the rendering of our garlic and our onion. That's exactly what it should look like. Many of you might have identified I have 1 whole clove of garlic in here, and that's just for good luck, and I will discard that prior to reincorporating our garlic and onions. So that's just my good luck piece. I always throw 1 or 2 whole cloves in to most of my recipes. It's just a little thing that Grandma taught. We can transfer our garlic and onion with our spices to our small preparation bowl. Now, before we move forward with the next step, I want to show you the residuals. A tad of residual here. We have the oil, the spices, and a little bit of garlic and a tiny bit of onion. It's time to add the top round now, piece by piece. Now I have 3 nice pieces here. I'm going to lay the Bistecca right across like so. Heat is basically on very, very low. This time I've placed my top round in the skillet, and I'm allowing 2 minutes to brown on each side. Can you see that? After we smoothed it out with the rock, we broke the fat, so it's generating nice liquid. I did not add any additional olive oil, just the remains and the bits of the spices that were left as I showed you. Now, after about 2 minutes, I'm going to turn it to get that nice brown effect. Each side. And it's been about 2 minutes. We'll bring it up close so you can see. We're cooking the other side now. Here, a little note. It's slow, slow. Once you have finished browning the meat, the rest of the recipe is easy, easy. You want to keep all your juices in the pan like so. The meat is curing and sealing all that goodness. Now I'm just going to add 1 pinch of salt at this time. Meat has now browned sufficiently on each side, and next I'm going to add back our garlic and onion. That right on top of the browned meat. Our good luck piece. You need to throw that out. Heat is on very, very low. You need to solidify all that flavor into the meat. I'm going to bring this up close to show you how I've smoothed over all that spice mixture on top of our beef. It's time to add that Worcestershire right across the top, or 3.5 cups of roma tomato. And this is so easy. This recipe is so easy. Grab a spoon, and I'm just going to incorporate the tomato. The rest is easy. I'm going to cover and keep this on a very, very low heat for about 2 hours. But the idea here is when you serve it over a bed of mashed potatoes, the meat will fall apart and it will have that taste of pizzaiolo or pizza. It's a traditional Neapolitan classic, steak pizzaiola. At this time, I want to take a moment and say many thanks for subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda. If you haven't subscribed, would you please consider subscribing to A Chef Called Rhonda? It's always healthy, always delicious, and always fun. Okay, I'm going to move this onto our stove. I'm going to let it simmer, and I'll meet you back in the kitchen to show you that full presentation of steak pizzaiola or bistecca alla pizzaiola. Okay, hi guys, welcome back into the kitchen. I wanted to give you a brief window into the kitchen whereby I started to make the mashed potatoes, and I wanted to give you insight into how the pizzaiola is actually cooking out. Here I'm lifting the bistecca or the steak, and it's just falling apart, and this is how we identify that it's beginning to become that supple, tender meal that we're striving for here. I'm just going to mash the potatoes in a very traditional fashion. I had maybe 3 or 4 russet potatoes. I quartered them, I boiled them, and then I let them sit on the stove, as you noted, and over a closed element so that they could drain away all the water. And I just added a bit of whole milk, some butter, a tad of salt. I whipped it for about 2 minutes, and then I wrapped it. Welcome back to the kitchen. Our pizzaiola or bistecca alla pizzaiola is finito, is finished. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you for watching today's cooking show, Steak Pizzaiola. It's a perfect weeknight meal. It can be done ahead of time and sit back at the stove and just render all that marination and goodness. The trick to this recipe truly is the thinness of the beef that you purchase. Top round steak in this case. Also, I smoothed it out with Grandma's Rock between 2 pieces of parchment paper. That's a key component, a key step, and to have your beef nice and dry, okay, before browning it. So it's a very, very easy recipe, wonderfully delicious. The proper plating method to this recipe is to add a dollop of the pizzaiola sauce to the bottom of the plate first, and then top your mashed potatoes, and then add that nice steak. And this is a steak pizzaiola. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will get back to you. Today's recipe, super simple, super healthy, always delicious. From my kitchen to yours, I bid you cindan, arrivederci, mangia, steak pizzaiola. It's what's for dinner. Cindan, salute. Arrivederci. Ciao. Bye.